In cost-based pricing, that cost there, $358.60. Dagmar's saying that we have this parts grid that shows us exactly where the price is coming from, which is every component that goes into production of this job, equipment, labor, and material, has its estimated usage, and then based on the estimated usage comes up with a estimated cost, which is this column here. You take that column, multiply it times the suggested multiplier column, and it gives you the suggested price. And then the sum of the suggested price is the price of the product. Right, Dagmar? And what she's saying is that in area-based pricing, there's no connection like that where the customer can look at 690 and know exactly where that's coming from. And that's largely true. That's largely true, but there is something that I do to walk customers through to make them understand this. And you know, Linda and I have talked about when a customer is area-based pricing or is doing area-based pricing, how detailed should we go into initially into cost-based pricing and having them set up their costs prior to going directly in and setting up their area-based pricing. And as part of that, we know that in area-based pricing, the price is generated not directly by cost, but by two factors. One is machines, and the other one is materials. And setup charges, scrap charges, and one-time setup charges can be confusing to some customers, and we should let them know that those are options and not requirements. But what I do is, if I say we have our printer here and our material here, this is what makes up the base price. So we come over here and look at area-based pricing, and I look at my base price and let them know that for the vinyl and for the printing, they're charging $300. So that's $10 a square foot. Now, there is no internal or external method other than showing them that this $300 is based off of the square foot price, the one-time setup charge, and maybe the scrap square foot price that's on this material, plus any printer resolution. Now, in this particular case, I'm pretty sure that I went through this example with a customer, and I removed the printer markup and the vinyl surcharges. So the only thing driving that vinyl price is a $10 square foot price, which is where that $300 comes from. Now, if we move on down, you could select your laminator, and if the laminator has the surcharge on it, which is normally $10, go right over here again and show them. And you see, when you select the laminator, it immediately is adding $10 to the lamination fee of this job. If you don't want that, remove it, and then you select your lamination. Come back over here, show them the price, and say, okay, so your lamination has increased the square foot price by $3. So that means that your lamination is coming out to $3 a square foot. And then finally take them to the last step of mounting that. And okay, your mounting is charging $300. It went from $13 to $23, so your mounting is coming in at $10 a square foot. And then go back and show them these parts in the adjust part information screen or on the part itself, how they're set up. And in the absence of a tool such as you're talking about, Dagmar, that's really the best way that I know of to explain to them how that pricing is coming together in area-based pricing. Now,
well, I think you do an awesome job of explaining it, because it's finally kind of became clear to me. It's pretty cumbersome having to go back and forth, where here we have this wonderful tool that kind of does cost-based all in one, but we don't really have anything.
Yeah, and I'll tell you something else. If this was really something like $9.30, and it had like $1.40 a square foot, and then it had a $9 one-time charge. Okay, that was the Coro, and the vinyl was something similar. It was, let's say, $8.60. I believe it was 40 cents square scrap, $9 one-time setup. The day someone answers me why sometimes it asks you for a reason on part edits and not others will be a very happy day for me. Okay, and the lamination has no scrap charge. It's just a single charge. Now, in this scenario, let's come back over here to the Roland. All right, and the laminator doesn't much matter. In this scenario, let's pretend that we went through this exact same exercise, and then showed them the pricing on their base mounting and lamination. Now it's a much more complicated thing, because you have to explain to them in the info tab the price is being driven off of 30 square feet, but it's also being driven by 10.78 square feet of scrap, which means that every time that you change something on your pricing form, that unit there is going to, which does in cost-based pricing, but we know why it does it in cost-based pricing. And also in cost-based pricing, you really can't think of things in terms of a square unit price. You have to kind of get away from that mentality. But people who want to do area-based pricing, they tend to like to have control over that number. Well, you really can't do it with one-time setups and scrap setup and scrap charges, because whether we change quantities, $24.09 a square foot. If I change quantity, that means my print area and scrap area ratio is going to change, which means my square foot price is going to change. I really think that's where a lot of confusion comes in square foot in area-based pricing, because people who are entrenched in area-based pricing don't think of it that way. You know, they want to sell a banner at $6 a square foot. They don't that oftentimes that banner is going to be grommeted and hemmed. Well, how much is it grommeted and hemmed? It's $8 a square foot. Didn't you hear me the first time? You know, so they, I'll explain zero out um, finishing charges, etc. So that's is the concept is the same here for explaining it, but when you add scrap and one-time setup charges, it is it's a much more complicated thing, as you can see.
And I think it's just complicated also by the fact that you have to bob back and forth between the parts which you're having to access through the cost parts grid, and you have to keep on going back and forth to explain it to them how it affects things, which is just different than if you also had a similar parts grid for for area-based, where you wouldn't have to, you'd have two different grids that they access. I think it's confusing for them if they're doing area-based and kind of skipping costing altogether at that moment, and maybe eventually they'll go in there and update their costs to get, get their margins down. But until then, you're just kind of bopping back and forth, and I think it's confusing for people. Why am I accessing the costs to get to the parts in order to find my area-based fields on the part level?
Exactly. I mean, I totally understand that. It would be great if there was some sort of screen. It wouldn't be hard to do. I know Rob could do it quickly, where if you looked at this and you saw this price, and it broke it out exactly in how much of this is your digital price, how much is your scrap, how much is your setup, and even though I think that people that would definitely clear things up for people, every single customer, I would say 100% truly, of those that I take through area-based price and explain the scrap and the setup charges to, end up not using them and using just a single square foot price. It's just
Peter,
so much easier.
Because they don't, Peter, do you think that's because they don't have the visibility of what the setup portion of that unit price is and the scrap portion, mostly?
I think that's part of it, but the other part of it is I think that in their current operation, they don't separate what they're, and it could be because they don't have something calculating the scrap. I don't know, but I think in their current operation they build, their scrap pricing into their square foot price. They're looking at their cost to some extent and coming up with a square foot price that covers everything. They just don't break it apart. They just don't separate it.
I'll put in the suggestion ticket for expanding that screen to show the scrap and setup portion, and see what that would take to do that. I do think that would be helpful.
Well, it would also need to kind of have the equipment and setup charges too, right? And it would need a few more fields, so it would need to be bigger to kind of break it all out. But then when people see that there's a number in a particular field, then they'll have much more of an idea of where to go to affect those the price change. To go, oh, I've got scrap included, or oh, I have setup included.
That's correct. Which when they see something odd in a number here, if it showed them that, then they would know, oh well, it's not just my $10 a square foot. It's also that there's either a per piece charge or a scrap charge or whatever. And finishing would add a whole nother component to that as well, because again, when you talk about basic finishing for banner production, that's almost always included in the price of the banner. No one charges separately for grommets and hemming. That's in that banner price, almost always.
Oh, one more thing.
Yep.
Your base price is overridden at the moment, isn't it? And on this form, that's not obvious because we don't have that little checkbox and everything.
But
the red. Isn't that what happened the other day?
Yeah, that red box means it's been overridden. So always be careful about that.
Have it labeled as such.
Yeah. Well, any time that you see on the pricing form. So you're right. I think if I change my price, that base price is going to stay the same because I didn't know, because it's been overridden.
Yeah, it's not as obvious.
I don't think you can override that either.
Yeah, because you had that issue the other day in the webinar.
Yeah.
I think it was in class.
Yeah, I don't know how many.
I had been aware of that.
You have been aware of that? That's happened to you?
No, I hadn't been aware of it until it happened. I'm like, oh, that's right, it's overridden, but it wasn't as obvious to me as I'm used to having the checkbox and the red bar. And
yeah, part of it is because you can override the price from that section. Now, I just wanted to mention, because I don't know how many, this probably isn't a big deal for almost anyone on the call, maybe. But the parts grid, let me see what, I'm pretty sure that we're running the latest on here. Yeah. The parts grid, okay, you know how we have in control the bill of materials report? The main reason for that report was because the parts grid for Eons was printable. You could just right-click it and export to grid. And then that went away when they started to rework the part grid. And I just recently found out, and you'll have customers who will ask you this, I just recently found out that they re-added that function to the part grid, which is very useful. So now they don't even have to go to the bill of materials report. They can just export that grid if they want to.
And Peter, I don't know if you got a chance to look at it. I haven't looked at it yet either. There's an inline part usage that they just recently added.
There's what is that?
Inline part usage.
And I think I just stumbled across
the actual.
What does that mean, inline part usage?
I'm not sure yet. I have to go in and test it, but I believe it's that you can just go into the order and update the actuals.
What?
Instead of putting in a usage
like right here. Actually, right here on that, try it on the actual cost column. Because I was able to edit it this morning, and I was like, what? And I didn't think you could do that. I thought you always had to create a part usage card.
Hold on just a second, because I think, oh, well, there's a little bit of a bug there. The export options is either opening up behind the program, or we can't see it for some reason. That's odd. Actual usage. Oh, that would be awesome.
I don't actually see an actual usage, but I was able to just type over actual cost. I hadn't looked for the actual usage column.
It's probably on the bottom.
I see current. This is new here, I believe.
There's an actual.
I'll find the wiki and circulate it.
Yeah.
But it's a feature they just
Added
added.
actual usage. Actual usage.
Revised as well as employee or actual usage employee. I'm not sure what that means.
This I can't seem to do anything with. Actual
Try the
cost,
actual
yes.
cost. Yeah.
And that is new, isn't it? Added actual
Yes.
usage.
I think so.
Oh, here
Yeah,
we
I think
go.
so.
Here we go.
Mhm.
That's awesome. So what happens if we say added actual usage to 2 hours? That would then should have a estimated versus actual cost. Oh, we don't have this saved, so it can't. Well, that's cool. I mean, I think that recently there's been, and then it records the employee that made the change.
That's what that
I think that recently they made a couple of really neat little enhancements that they're not huge. With document management has the potential to be huge. I really think. But for smaller shops that don't want to have to enter a reason for edits on orders, that's a nice option. I think it's extremely important to have that on for any large company, but your mom and pop place doesn't really need that. Um, and a few other small enhancements like that are simple, seem like simple to us, but I think the customers will really appreciate those type of things. I know that the request for the part usage to be printed has been around for ever since they took it away. There we go. I'm not sure what happened before. I know with RDP you can sometimes have trouble with Windows. Let's say view. You can have it. There we go. So you see it'll export it right into Excel. You can select the columns that you want. Just export it. Sometimes with remote desktop, you have problems with Windows opening up behind Windows, and it's I don't know if there's anything we can do about it. So in area-based pricing, in terms of things to know, I think Dagmar's suggestion would be great, but I don't really. It's no more complicated really than it's the. If we look at a pricing form, Rob has these broken into sections, and there's a practical reason for that when designing pricing forms, but it works as a good teaching tool as well. Is first of all, in area-based pricing, we're always talking about dollar amounts, to where in cost-based pricing, we're normally talking about time. Yes, we're recording dollar amounts in the form of cost, but for setting things up, we're talking about how long does it take to do this, how much of this is it going to use, etc. In area-based price, and that's one of the other points of confusion, is that even the term cost and price is confusing to some people, and that's why sometimes price slips out from me when I mean cost, and I always try to correct myself. But it's just such an apples to oranges way of thinking that the customer needs a good understanding of what the difference is going on system wise between between area and cost-based pricing.
Peter, I just sent something through, and I'm wondering if this is a discount table setup or just lookup table setup, because they described it as this is just their standard pricing, not like they're giving a discount, but the price to them they are reflecting as being cheaper. And should I put that in lookups or as discounts? Because I sent through what he said on his standards or whatever, but I considered it as discounts, but he said he's not certain they want to show it as a discount. Should I set it up as a lookup table then?
Is this a dollar amount or a discount? You sent it through where, Travis?
Through the chat on the GoToMeeting so everybody can see it.
Okay. No, I would set this up as a discount tape, as a discount table.
Should I put it in built-in discount rather than
Yeah, you put it in built-in discount, and that way it's not going to show as a
Okay, that's what I was making sure.
as a discount.
So still do it on a discount table, but put it in built-in rather than default discount, since they don't want to show it. They just want the price to reflect that then.
Yes, but the pricing formula changes, and be aware that what they're asking for is a discount on square footage. So when you come in here and you build the table, make sure that the variable here is printed area in square foot. Now, if they charge $8 a square foot for their base price, and then they drop it down to
$350.
Oh, hold on a second, Travis.
Hey everyone, I'm going to have to drop. I have to run to another meeting. So have a good time, and I'll review the recording to see.
Thanks, Linda.
Thanks. Bye.
Travis,
Yeah.
now that I'm thinking about it, you can do the same thing in the discount in a lookup table, and it's going to be easier to do because he's working with dollar amounts. So set up your table over here with the first variable being
Area-based price?
wait, yeah, the first table just being the price, and the second table being printed area by square foot. You don't have to put anything in row 1 parameter. All right, so their table that's not right. Okay, I'm sorry, take it back. Make this make your column variable it's just going to be the dollar amount. So you can remove that square foot there. Okay, and so he says that 4 by 8 feet they charge $8. So you're going to always start at 0, add row, and so up to 48 by 96, that's 32 square feet. At 32 square feet, the value is $8. And then you have to just figure out what a 40 by 20 is, or just show him that. Then the add row would be the next square footage and how much they want to charge for that, etc. You would want to, if row value is not found, return the previous value, and that's it. And then you need to add that to the pricing formula.
Okay. And this is in our test system. Could you save it and just put it as a test so I can reference back to it to look
Yeah.
at, go through some stuff with it?
I'll just save it. I'm going to say Travis table.
And I put that into the I obviously have to put that still into the discount formula, or is that going to go into
That goes into the pricing formula.
the pricing formula itself?
Yeah, and hopefully, Travis, at some point this morning, I'm gonna be able to get up there.
Okay.
But
Yeah, good luck with that.
if you
With
need,
the whole right clicking.
yeah, I know. Well, actually, did they change that?
No, it just I was fighting it even on our internal system. It's just you have to just keep clicking and right clicking, and finally at some point it'll bring it up. Usually it's right whenever the point of you've given up hope.
Well, that's crazy.
Yeah, I don't know why it's not near like it was before.
What you would do is on the product itself, which is,
you know what it is? I have the same problem. It's like it's not selecting the line item.
yeah.
Once it selects the line item, then you get your options. But I have to keep on going back to my dashboard to make line item changes because it just won't. It's not grabbing it. You can't select it quickly.
That's exactly what it is. Yeah. That's exactly what it is, Dagmar. You're right. So, Travis, on the product setup in pricing,
Mm-hmm.
This is the kind of stuff, Dagmar, that I want to make sure is gone before you do classes. In the pricing table, I'm sorry, in the pricing formula, it would literally, he's talking about banner material. So you would have to do something like this. If roll stock material type is not banner, then follow through with the regular pricing formula. Else, look up table value, and then the format is parentheses, quote, name of your table, end quote, end if. That's the thing with lookup tables is you have to build it into the pricing formula, but that's all you would have to do in this particular case. So that's just saying if the roll stock material is not banner, go through with a normal pricing method. If it is banner, use the lookup table. Now, you can understand that if that customer tells you, well, it's different lookup tables for each different type of banner material.
Mm-hmm.
At that point, I would step back and I would show him, and depending on his hours, I would say, look, I can show you how to do this in about 30 minutes, or I can do it for you in about 4 hours. You can, whatever you're more comfortable with. And then at that point, I would step back, show him how to clone the lookup tables and how to say, how to add on to this formula. In which case, you would just say, if roll stock material equals this type of banner, then lookup table this. Else, if roll stock material equals this other type of banner, then lookup table this. Else, if roll stock, and you would keep building on that and end with else, zero, end if, and then let it go on to the formula if none of those conditions are met.
So what tells you there not to do it as a discount table, though, and just put it as a standard built-in discount?
It's not a discount. It's handled completely different. It's a lookup table. Yeah.
So it's looking up a value rather than discounting a percentage?
Yeah, that's exactly right. Because if you, notice this is called the pre-discount price.
Mm-hmm.
Anything that you put in this field or the default discount is going to be subtracted from this pre-discount price. But we're not subtracting anything here. We're just telling it, don't look it up by cost, don't look it up by area. Look at the lookup table to pull the price in for it.
All right. I think I was just kind of wondering, because I know he's going to have every material is going to have a different basis from what he's saying. If this is banner, and he's doing everything he does for wide format is area-based pricing, and he has his tables or whatever for each of them. So I just have to continue to put different variables in there.
Wait. He's going to have a different discount per part or different price per part.
I think it was per, like, something for banners. So everything digital is different, though. Like, some of his different wide format things were different than the banner, obviously. And
yeah, well, so, but are we talking about on the material type level or on the material level? Because let's say he has 4 or 5 different type of Ultraflex materials.
Mm-hmm.
Is he reducing the price on those differently?
No, I think just more or less like banners are this price, I think, and then
vinyl is this.
Vinyl is this price, and so on.
You would just do then. I mean, it would be exactly the same thing, except if roll stock material. Let's change this up a little bit to make it easier and make more sense in this case. If roll stock material equal banner, then lookup table, Travis, banner table, end if. Then lookup table, else, 0, end if. Plus, you would copy this whole line item, or this whole line in the formula.
For each material type category.
Exactly. This would then be banner. That's right. You've done these, Dagmar?
A little differently, but close.
Yeah, there's different ways to do it.
Well, I had my own banner product.
Oh,
so I didn't have to. I did it on a per machine basis type of product mostly. So I got to adjust them without having to have complicated ones because I had more products.
Got it. So, Travis, you would build a banner table. You would clone it, build a vinyl table. You would clone it, build a whatever table. And then you would continue on this list. and
Okay.
add an exclusion there for each table. At the very end, it would be, well, just the last type of material that he is using a lookup table for. So if it's not banner and it's not vinyl, it's going to use the regular pricing.
Okay. That makes sense.
Actually, this is really a
One
little.
question.
Yep.
Do you need a high volume on like a square footage, a high square footage where it's like it's your top end that it won't discount any further, or you don't really need it because you're looking at specific values on that lookup table?
No, I think
It'll just max out at the highest number?
well, yeah, that's what the attempt to return the previous value. So anything over 64 square feet would fall back to 64 square feet.
Okay. Okay.
The one thing I would like to mention here is that I think that this formula is not quite right, Travis. And if you need if you're going to do this before I get there, just IM me. This really should be else. We need the end ifs at the end of this. So it'd be else 0. Sorry, else 0 end if would be the last line. You would want it that way so that it doesn't. Well, no, we're referencing. I'm sorry, man. I am confusing you for no reason at all. Referencing different materials. That's right. Just like we had it before. Where this gets really nasty and complicated is where the customer wants to do a separate price for each material under banner and vinyl.
Yeah, that would be a pain.
Yeah, that's an awful lot of work, and I normally at that point will offer to show them how to do it. I'll save this. Go ahead, Dagmar.
In that case, would it be easier potentially for them to start, if they're far enough along with their product, to start splitting it out and paring it down a little bit into, like a banner product, for instance. Maybe not on everything, but just to make it more manageable chunks.
Well, yeah,
or
if you.
just enormous formula.
Yeah. No, I would say if you could, if the customer is okay with it. But I'll tell you something else that I would highly suggest to them. Now, again, if we're talking about area-based pricing, these are people that tend to like control. I mean, like to have control, not so much the product. Notice he's saying $4 a square foot. Now, you think this guy cares that it's $2 a printed square foot, a $9 setup charge, and whatever for scrap?
Nope. No. Straight
$4.
$4
a square foot. But what I would say to him is you might want to consider, can you figure this out in a way where this will work with percentages instead of dollar amounts? Because then you could do it much easier in a discount table than having to use lookup tables. You can still use dollar amounts in discount tables, but you have to play a mathematical game with it, which can be very confusing. So I would say, I know that you're used to a fixed discount per dollar per square foot. Would this work for you with discounts instead of dollars. And there is a formula that you can use to kind of capture the spectrum in discounts from one pricing level or one maximum price to his lowest price. But that typically is not going to result in $3.50 a square foot or $4 a square foot, etc. It's gonna vary. So my guess is that he probably would not go for that. In which case, this is what you have to do. And
Okay. Yeah, and if it gets too out of hand, they have plenty of time because they bought time for offset, but it's not going to be set up. So
I've seen Blue Media, for example, huge company. They were such control freaks. Their initial area-based pricing formula was so enormous that it was, I mean, everyone who saw it at Sirius just thought it was ridiculous. But what I was going to suggest to you is that if this coding gets very long, it can have a performance impact on the product. So you can always do this. Once you have it written, cut it out of the pricing formula. I'm going to leave it there for now and go into variables. And uncheck show only variables in use. Locate a variable that is not in use, such as, in this case, we can say area-based misprice. Okay? And then override that variable and insert your formula into that variable. Okay, that last plus there would not be used. Okay, so your entire formula would be stored in a variable that is now active. We've made it active now on this product, area-based misprice. And then on the product, all you would have to do is we would pretend that this would be gone, and you would say area base okay, plus that, and that's it, because the actual details are inside of this variable, and
Okay.
that will help the performance tremendously.
Okay, I'll see how far he goes into it with it, and kind of go from there. I don't have a call with him immediately or anything. I'm just trying to really get a good grasp on what they want to do.
I will leave this
Okay.
in wide format, but I'm going to be switching this database over to a clean one. So if you don't mind, when you get a chance, go in there and copy that data
Okay.
out of there. I think you can even export these lookup tables and then re-import them into your system.
All right, I'll take a look at that.
But that's how you would do it.
Yeah, I
All
think
right.
what we did is we did use lookup tables. We used square footage since it was based for a product that was based on the machine. We just took whatever price was calculated, and then the value was a percentage, so that you're multiplying your price, and then you were discounting it, but through a lookup table by a percentage. So it's like, oh, we're giving a 50%
Sure.
discount at a certain square footage, and did it that way.
Yeah, if you you can also do something like this.
Because I never actually used a discount table.
If let's say, how do I do an add? All right, so I can say, and the concept here would be the same, printed area. I don't know. I find that there's use for both. And
Well, I guess how people think about it, if they're looking at a particular value, a particular percentage, I don't know how else the discounts would be used.
all right, but let's look at the case here where this guy is specifying hard numbers. So he says up to 48 by 96, it's $8 a square foot. Now, remember that this discount is just a value, and it depends how the formula is written as to whether it sees this as a discount or whether it sees it as a dollar amount. So I insert my next row, and it says if he buys a 40 by 20, I don't know what that is, but I'm going to say 64 square feet, then the price we charge is $3.50 per square foot. So what you have to in fact do is assume that the part is set up for $8 a square foot. You need to take $8, and what do you subtract from $8 to get $3.50? It'd be $4.50, right? So the discount is $4.50. Okay?
If it's a straight dollar value, gotcha. Okay.
If it's a straight dollar value. And we go to the next one, and he says, let's say it's 72. And he says it's yeah, see, and the way that he has it broken out, it would work this way fairly decently. So in it's $8 down to he's actually saying really $8 and then $6 per square foot. He's kind of contradicting himself at the end there, or maybe maybe that's just an example. But let's use his example. So if it's $6 a square foot, then the discount is $2. And in the end, if it's $4 a square foot, his discount is $4. So we're used to looking at this as percentages, right? But I can go up to that product
I took that formula out already, so you can change it if you want.
Okay. Yeah, and I'm glad you said that because that would cause this to break, actually, during training. You could then say in your discount table, normally a discount table formula is discount value, name of table, percentage, times pre-discount price, right? That's normally what we do for a discount table. It means look at the percentage of the discount, multiply it times the price, and then subtract it from the pre-discount price. But in this case, we would just say discount value. We would leave the percentage off of it, times printed area in unit area. Because what it would do is it would look at this value, and if that printed area hits 64, then it would take $2 times 64 and reduce it from the pre-discount price, effectively making that price $6 a square foot. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Yep.
So that's how you would do it with a discount table. Again, if it's different tables for roll stock and vinyl, you still would have to build a formula similar to the one we previously had. But you could do it either way.
Okay.
I would say ultimately do it in the lookup table. It seems to be more straightforward because I promise you that 3 months from now, if you explain to him, but what we had to do here was take your base price and then subtract the dollar amount that would give us your final price. He's not going to remember what the hell this 2 or this 4 means. So the lookup table may be a better way to go. Dagmar, did y'all ever use the discount table variable?
No, I never used the discount table at all. It's all lookup tables.
I'm sorry, the lookup table variable.
I'm not sure there's an actual variable for it.
Yeah, because you can. Rob uses it quite a bit. I don't really use them. But for example, if I say default lookup table,
Oh yeah.
and
Yeah, I never use that. I'm looking at it in the Imagine group right
so
now.
then you can rather than reference the formula lookup table value each time, you can just reference the variable price table. But don't oh, and also you wouldn't be able to use this anyway in this case because you can only use this price table if one table's being used. In a case where multiple tables might be used, I would build it like we did into the pricing formula, and then insert it into a variable that's not being used.
Okay.
And that's just to help performance.
Hey, Peter, we have a call in 15 minutes.
Yes, we do.
Yes, we do.
Okay. Who is that with?
It's going to be with WC Signs, and they just want to meet for like 30 minutes.